Royal Fetish.
My life's like a movie, paparazzi picture. If it's to get richer, then I'll probably get with you.
Royal Fetish.
So,
Yes.
I found out from our show videographer and producer and sound engineer that in his career of doing this, his long, lengthy career,
Illustrious.
girthy career,
Real thick.
that the most likes that he and views that he's ever had on a piece of work has been our show on Pornhub.
Oh,
Shit.
So in order for him to share this accolade,
You gotta let people know that
You gotta let people
sharing
know.
Pornhub.
he's got
You
his
gotta
Pornhub.
let people know his whole Pornhub handle and login information.
all the things.
All the things.
Follow me on the Pornhub.
But isn't that cool?
Yes, and I also found out that he has not used the equipment for this situation back
You know
here.
what? It's the cooking for me.
This cooking shit. So we're gonna be doing a show very soon in which I'm gonna teach people how to make that crab okra stew and a couple other things. Maybe my great grandmother's crab cakes or something.
Wait a
Okay.
minute.
Gonna get it in.
Now, you don't want a crab cake battle.
I definitely
Not a
do.
You
battle.
don't want
I
a crab
definitely do.
cake battle.
Let's scrap the chat we
can
had in
scrap this
mind.
whole segment for a crab cake battle. I put some people from Maryland to shame now. Come on now.
Not
Look
came
at-
up from Miami to put the people from Maryland to shame.
It's look here. I was taught one good time by one of those old soul mothers in Maryland, and since then you can't tell me nothing about my crab cake.
Well, I mean the recipe still come from the right place though.
Indeed.
You know, shout
Touche.
out to Gigi, rest in peace.
All of the things.
Eastern Shores of Maryland. That's
Yes.
where she came from with the recipe, and I've just tinkered with it just a little bit to get the lard out of it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But
Ooh, not you
lard.
coming for your health.
The lard.
I just that's the
lard.
only
The
thing I
lard.
tinker with is to
Not
make
the
it a
butter
little
or the
healthy.
oil.
The
The
lard.
lard. The margarine.
For the record, there will be no butter.
No,
All right, so if you could cook a meal that you were not competing with King on in this kitchen, what does it inspire you to whip up?
Honestly, I'm thinking like chicken breasts with some Brussels sprouts.
Oh, okay, it's giving healthy.
Yeah, like
See,
chicken
no
breast
lard.
with Brussels sprouts, maybe a little like yellow rice, cornbread muffin moment.
Ooh,
and
it's giving multicultural.
Yeah, because I'm Afro Latina, so I have to like mix in all of the things,
Yeah.
and then I always have to have a little starch, so that's with the cornbread, and I think probably for dessert, smoothies. I don't like heavy desserts anymore. The older I get, the less I like super sweet things. So probably like a good smoothie that I'll like chunky blend, so I have like a good chew on it too. Yeah.
Texture. Y'all watch too many cooking shows.
Oh, it is sad. My
I was
little
about
brother.
to be chopped on Royal Fetish chopped.
It is. My little brother used to do, we used to watch the Food Network a lot. So he would be at the table, like, critiquing my mom's food.
Oh, no.
And it was it was never bad, but, like, it was always the funniest thing. And he would do it with Capri Sun. So he would, like, sip a Capri Sun and be like, I taste like notes of ginger. And it would be the funniest thing in the world.
What kind of Capri Sun got notes of ginger though? I'm
Not damn one.
I was about to say like, yo, y'all got an exclusive joint.
Not a single one, okay? He was just coming up with stuff that he had heard.
That is
Damn,
funny.
I got my whole hopes up just now. It's like they got ginger.
Not even.
You thought they had
They got-
kombucha.
Right,
They got kombucha suns out here.
Kombucha Suns. I can't.
But wait, y'all, that's a good idea. In a
Yo.
little pouch. Does it have to be in
Trademark.
size? Yeah.
I was going to say.
Okay.
You heard it here
Kombucha in a
first.
You heard it
pouch.
here
I don't know,
first.
but there's like a certain liquor content in kombucha that I don't know.
It's just a little
They
bit.
might, they might come
taste,
for
yeah.
you with that type of packaging though. You know what I'm saying? You might have to. It's
Okay.
like a hard Capri Sun now.
We're going to take this behind the scenes. So, speaking of little brother, family, home, cooking, all those things, what does it feel like to be coming home to Florida?
Oh, it's bittersweet. I love being at home. I love the sun. I love the beach. I love all of those things. But right now, with all of the stuff happening in legislation, I am a little shaky. Like, I recognize that I benefit from certain privileges, so I don't have people walking around like, oh, that's the man, so I don't think that I experienced that stuff. But just the possibility. And sometimes it's not even a possibility for me. It's the possibility of me, like, what happens if it happens in front of me, right? Like, what am I going to do? Whereas, like, I'm faced with that every single day. But, like, here, and especially right now, I'm just kind of like, I was a little antsy on the way here.
Anytime somebody asks me, you know, when I'm traveling and all of that, and they're like, where are you from? You know, I'm from Jersey, but I live in Florida. And then I always get the response from people, how do you, this, that, and the other, same exact thing you said. I'm like, yo, that sun, the beach, the weather is beautiful. But the situation, shit.
Trash.
Looking for sun, no.
Well, we want to thank you for coming here.
Word.
Like, you know, braving, getting on a plane when you do not have to come and talk to us and to our fans and friends and Royal Fetish family. Really, because I don't know that if I was invited to an anti-Black woman state, which
we live here.
live in one, I know that. But I'm just like, that's so blatant, right. You know, so blatant, and it's a hotbed that I would have been as apt as you are, but I know that this is also a part of your work. It's to be brave.
Going into the spaces where people expect you to go into uncomfortable and stepping in there with your head held high is the best way to, like, change things. I think that a lot of bigotry and transmisia and all of that stuff is based off of the idea that you're going to be ashamed, right?
Right.
And so if I allow you to feel like you've won that battle by not doing, by not going, by not saying, by not having the conversations, then essentially you have, right? Whether or not I take that with me, you have, because you've blocked me from spaces that make me happy in order for you to feel justified in your bigotry and whatever it is that you have going on. So I'm going to go where I want to go. And the thing about it is I'm going there knowing that there might be repercussions and consequences, but I'm also going there to make a statement that says, fuck you, and that shit you was talking about, because I still want my crab legs, and they have the best ones on the beach. Like, you know, and I think that that's just how I enter the spaces. And I think ultimately a lot of people respect that. I think a lot of people respect the fact that I'm not a punk ass activist who sits online and goes, I want to talk, da 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 da. But then when I'm invited, it's just like I come up with all these excuses and these minor, like, oh, but it's Florida, and oh, but it's this, and oh, but it's that. And visibility is still important. So if I don't show up, then who else does? You know?
I think that's important also because there are people who live here who are looking for somebody to look up to or an example to let them know, like, I can live, Indeed. I can be out, I can do the same shit that everybody else should be able to do.
Facts.
You know, so it's important to be able to do so. So
we jumped in.
We did jump in.
We did.
We jumped all the way in.
We did.
But there's a bio.
There is.
A whole bio.
There is. And I'll be so mad if we don't read
like,
this
I was
bio.
talking to y'all for 3 hours. People ain't even know
who I was. Exactly. So and this bio deserves its own moment. So let me introduce you to the people.
Do it.
All right. Hope Giselle is a highly respected national organizer, author, artist, and activist. She co-founded Alabama State University's first LGBT organization while earning a master's in fine art and certifications from Harvard and SHRM. Hope is the founder of the nonprofit organization Allow Me and serves as the training director of Get Fluid. She has worked with numerous organizations, including NASA and the Human Rights Campaign, to amplify the voices of marginalized communities. As a two-time best-selling author, columnist, and nationally recognized panelist, Hope's passion for inclusion and social justice has inspired many to join the fight. Welcome, Hope Giselle.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And also, we are sitting with the upcoming New York City Grand Marshal for the Pride Parade.
Yes.
Oh, shit. That's a big fucking job.
This is the
a
first
big fucking
platform that I'm
parade.
actually allowing people to say it on, because I haven't been able. But it's gonna, by the time this episode drops, it'll be fine. But I'm really excited. I'm so excited about
What does that mean for you personally? Like, forget all like the professional accolades. When you got that news that you were going to be the Grand Marshal, what?
I honestly felt seen. I felt really seen, and I think that for me, especially because of the type of content that I create and how real I am, when the white gays are still like, "Hey, we like you," And it's not to say that that's that white stamp of approval. This is not that, right? But this is one of those things where it's like when the people that you are calling in, right, still respect you calling them in on a regular basis and do that so much so that they invite you to the space to honor you, that felt really good. Because I get the white gays together all the time.
Yeah,
and
you do.
New York Pride.
You gather them all.
You know? And so the fact that they were just like, you know what, we hear the message, we see it, and we want to add you to that message this year made it amazing. I've hosted New York Pride. I've done like different panels, and this year to be the Grand Marshal just felt really good.
That is so beautiful. So beautiful. Speaking of gathering the white gays, this is something that I speaking of gathering the white folk. This is a little bit off topic, but you brought my attention to when Bud Light, that's the beer that's under fire or whatever. Okay.
That shit literally under fire right now. They bucking off with that shit.
It is. And they have changed their position a little bit. Did you notice that? Okay. I just read a little bit about that last night. But I found out about the whole debacle from your page because the spokesmodel,
Dylan
Mulvaney has their complexities as a person, as just their complexities.
As a person, right.
Okay. And has their place and opinion in the LGBTQ community. And they were chosen for this spokesmanship. Yeah. And then, everybody got mad. They started blowing up their Bud Light and shit. And now Bud Light has sort of done it was actually like a third-party marketing company that hired this person. We didn't, as if they don't sign off on every dollar because they saw another dip in sales. I didn't realize that many people was out here drinking Bud Light.
I mean, it's one of the beers of choice, and because I grew up, my grandma, I still remember the order. It's the Miller Lite in the can, not the short one, the tall one. I knew, and those were subsidiaries of each other, and so I knew that people was doing it, and it's the number one July cookout beer too, which is interesting. But I mean, there's a need to backtrack. I think not even just because of the backlash, because I think honestly, if the backlash was coming from a person who wasn't so controversial on both sides, it might have been different. But I think what they realized was that they didn't vet Dylan,
the wrong person.
And they chose the wrong person, right? It's a difference when you do this and the community is like, yeah,
I stand behind this person,
right? And then the people that you expected to go fuck that shit, right? But it was for them. I think the kicker was the community was like, really, bitch? And then they was like, oh, we got the wrong person all the way around. And now there's a need to backtrack. I don't think that it's backtracking because they don't support, because Bud Light, this isn't their first Pride initiation or whatever the case may be. But I think that what it really is that they're trying to distance themselves from her.
Okay.
And say we would have done a better job. This company, right? They picked this, this thing. And so it's they're trying to put it off on those folks. But like you said, they sign off on every dollar. Y'all thought it was a good idea until it wasn't. That's really what it was.
They forgot to have someone from the community endorse it.
Or but that's the thing too, because they do have people from community, but they have white gay men who look at things like that and go, oh my God, it's great. It's awesome. That's inclusivity. Because they don't like the idea of having to have conversations with women like me, where it's yeah, it's great, it's awesome, that's inclusivity, but also, so let's talk about the racism in the community as well. And if you don't mind, I realized that I was getting paid $10,000 less than she was. So let's talk about the pay wage gap and why, because I got more followers and more influence than her, right? And so those are the things that they run away from. And people like Dylan, one, because she's so very young in her transition, but two, because she's willing to smile and grin and bear it and maybe have those conversations on the background, but she's never going to check you in the moment.
Right.
And that's what they like. And unfortunately for them, this time it cost them money.
I think also a lot of times in these situations, I did see whatever Dylan's most recent post was, and was saying, I come from a conservative family. So it's they're going to reach out. When you think of I don't know who owns Bud Light, if that's the full parent company.
Anheuser-Busch?
It's Anheuser-Busch, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So you think of them, you think of Coors, the Coors family in Colorado sponsored all kinds of Tea Party and all kinds of, you know what I'm saying? So those companies themselves are deep rooted in that mind state anyway. So of course, when they reach out to someone that's LGBTQIA in their perspective, they're going to reach out to also someone who's fucking conservative.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Same as if they were going to have a black woman, they're gonna get Candace Owens on that shit.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
right,
So
yeah.
they're gonna still kind of keep it within their zone. So I think like a lot of times when these companies wind up doing that shit, they're like, well, they still with us though, right? You know what I'm saying? And then they miss the mark double time.
Yeah, they missed that mark.
Real bad.
Real bad.
Real bad.
You gathered them real good too.
I really had, because my thing is there are so many like amazing trans women that could have been used, and actual trans women that actually drink beer. Like that's the thing that ad and being somebody who has done stuff, and I know that I've nowhere near the amount of money that she got offered for that. Right. I've had people that were only offering me $10,000 and I had to send them 6 different edits of something. You know what I'm saying? And that to me felt like that was her first take. It was the only take. She was like, I'm only sipping this beer one time and I'm done. And they were like, great, right? Like nobody vetted that to even see that she does not enjoy. And it's very clear that she didn't enjoy the beer that she was drinking. And maybe go back and say, just talk about the beer. As a matter of fact, just hold up your can. Don't even, all the rest of this is unnecessary. But then it's like you make a mockery out of women who do enjoy sports, right? Because it's like you're making it seem as if women are not interested in it. So you're just like, well, March Madness, whatever that is, like, and it's like, what? Like, do you know how many women actually like live for this harder than their husbands? And the whole thing was just, it was a mockery.
This year, the women's March Madness was actually way better than the men's, and I think they actually got a higher market share for like a majority of the games on television viewership. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
you don't. I don't know. I think this kind of would lead to some of the other questions that we have. So I don't want to get too far ahead.
It's good because, I mean, think about it for the folks that listen to us talk about, you know, let's just say people in kink and BDSM that take jobs or representation that they shouldn't. Like, you haven't learned the ropes yet, or you can only take that conversation but to a point. And I think that all of us who represent, whether it's marginalized communities, subcultures, what have you, we have a responsibility to turn jobs away too, and opportunities away, and maybe give it to the people who you're still listening to, or I don't know. I see that a lot. You know, it's hard to turn dollars away, especially when you are in a marginalized community, whatever that community may be. But it's like your time is coming, and if you're really about furthering opportunities for people, like, get out the way. It's coming. Your time is coming.
I love it. We say pass the mic. Like, that's one of the things. Like, just pass the mic.
You're not ready for it.
You ain't ready.
But the reason I was even thinking about that is, I think you touched on it just now, where it's like, to say women are all into or not into one particular thing is like the definition of like just laning a whole group of people.
Yeah.
And I think right now with laws in Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi, Montana, just
There's
rattle
more
off these states that are making all these laws. I think they are also, instead of reaching out a hand to understand or lending an ear to understand, they are making these laws because they are laning an entire group of people. And within that, trying to formulate this to just kind of like what we talk about a lot. Like, for example, whenever somebody tells a white person they're acting black, it's always like, you're not out here acting like Marcus Garvey. You know what I'm saying? They be out here acting a one particular way that they seen in a rap video. So like, no, you're acting like that one fucking person. So with that being said, in regards to the perception of trans folk right now, how do you let people know that you are trans, but also you're an individual human being, and let them know that these particular laws, they might affect one person in one way, someone else. And I know this is like the longest fucking question, but how do you even get to approach that when people aren't trying to have this conversation?
That's but that's a really great question, because people aren't, right? Like, people don't, but also people don't care. And the saddest part about it is that, like, my people don't care, because when you try to talk about that as a black person, like, it is not even like you're a white trans person or a white queer person trying to like make the equivalency, which would still be valid, like, depending on who you are and your past. But like, as Black queer people, when we try to draw that, it's like, don't do that. Like, those are two false equivalencies. And it's like, but it's not. You're literally using the same talking points that white supremacists use against us on me because I'm queer. And then you overlook the fact that I'm Black the entire conversation as if you're talking to the oppressor. Yeah. You talking to me like I don't get it. Like, I get it. I'm still Black. You might have forgot that once you heard the word trans come out of my mouth, but I'm still Black. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where I'm always saddened when I'm in space with other women and all we care about is cackling as women. And then the second that my transness comes up, we're no longer cackling anymore. Now it's judgment. Now I got 1,001 questions for your existence. Now I have all of these things as if we weren't all just sharing the experience. None of those things mattered until you knew. But it's one of those things where it's like, as a Black trans woman, I can't have that conversation because as soon as you find out that I'm trans, nothing else that I say matters. Like, just to take you back, I had the incident on Folx where I did not disclose during a conversation that had nothing to do with my gender identity. It had everything to do with how I felt about Black men and whether or not they were under attack. That was what the conversation was about. And because I didn't disclose and Dr. Umar called me a beautiful Black queen, I'm wrong. And the entire internet, mind you, I had a day of peace. And this is how I know and why I call bullshit on certain things. I was not clocked during the interview by anybody. Mm-hmm. After the interview, I still wasn't clocked. I had a day. Then I guess one of them hoteps was trying to find a thing because I made points. And that's what they do. You get to making points. Now they want to go look up stuff and see what they can use to discredit you. And so one of them went and found out like, oh, you a whole man out here. And mind you, I'm reading the comments. I'm going through the things, as unhealthy as it is for us. Don't read the comments. Stop reading them comments. But I'm reading the comments. And while people might not have necessarily agreed with me, nobody was being transphobic. Mm-hmm. Nobody was saying anything like disrespectful. People were just like, I don't like what the lady said. Cool. The second that they found out, even the people that agreed with me, even the women that agreed with me were just like, oh, but you shouldn't have been the one to say those things. You don't have a right to talk about Black men because you're a Black man who didn't even want to be a Black man. I don't care how good the points were. And it's like, okay, wait, pause. So now everything that I said is invalid, not because you've done research and found out that I was giving misinformation, but just because I'm trans. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's hard to have those conversations because it's just like, it doesn't matter what you say, how intelligent you are, whether I talk at the octave of a 2 so that I'm not, giving the wrong tone or making it seem like I'm trying to be whatever. Or if I get on here and I'm just spitting my shit, there's always going to be something because I'm trans. And it does not matter that I'm Black. And I think that that's one of the conversations that I wish that we could have, but I don't think that anybody wants to because then they would have to recognize that what they're doing is dead ass wrong. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it don't make no sense for us to be not us. Right. Like, let's have the conversation about like queerness and understanding and all of those things, but let's not like argue and beat each other down in the process because we have bigger fish to fry.
Word.
What is that? I mean, we know it's transphobia, homophobia, racism. We know it's all the isms, but it's almost like when you get folks that are oppressed, we have to compete for who's the most oppressed or to look for the enemy that's tangible.
Oppress, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it feels like fear, right? Like it's the fear of not being able to feel the power that somebody else has over you. Mm-hmm. And even within the trans community, right now we have a little debacle going on because there's a very popular trans woman who decided that she was going to make non-binary people the enemy this week. And I'm just like, first of all, we're already a marginalized group within a marginalized group within a marginalized group. And now you as a marginalized person are going to turn around and do the same thing within the group? Else. Like, that don't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
It's everywhere you look at it, it always happens though. I mean, it's one of the reasons why America and Britain before it were able to rule the world by putting a minority in charge of another minority, but the smaller minority, you know what I'm saying? But I think within Black folk, and there was that whole, I forget who had originally said it, but there was that tweet where it was like, Black men are the white people
of the Black community.
Of the Black community. Mm-hmm. And it's like that totem pole situation. Like, I know these people above me, you know, these white folks above me is gonna treat me this, that, and the other, and I can't respond to them the way that either I want to or I should.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's certain consequences that I'm not willing to deal with. So I'm gonna take all of that shit out on somebody who's in a lower position than me.
Well, I also ask people, because when you do approach people about their thought process, you know, you get pushback like, you know, I don't have a whatever bone in my body and all that. And I think that a lot of this is learned behavior, right? So we have watched our families, our communities be oppressed, repressed in all the ways. And like, what is a different model that we can look at to be able to see how we can actually like how can we have community amongst each other without doing exactly what's being done to us? Like, where do you feel safe, Hope? Where do you feel like you can have nuanced conversations, and where you are seen and recognized and treated as the individual that you are? You don't have to have an answer if they ain't one.
I was gonna say, I mean, I think obviously like my inner circle, right? Like my people, like my 5 people that like are like my folks. But honestly, in general, like I don't really feel safe that, because there's always somebody in the room that's gonna take something that I said and make it about, like, I literally tweeted a picture, and it was literally like a little infographic that just said, "Cis is not a slur, it's a descriptor." That's all it says. My caption to that reiterated that and just said, have you ever been called cis and felt a way about it? Let's open up dialogue. Nothing about it was antagonistic. Nothing about it called out any particular race or gender or anybody. I have people underneath that post. There are some white folks that are like, it's the same thing as the N-word. Then I have some black women under that post that are like, oh, but don't call me cis. I'm a regular woman. I'm biological. People are under there debating the idea of this being just as bad as when black folks were trying. Like, there are so many things happening underneath this post that was not antagonistic in any way. And honestly, I was hoping that people would be like, I've been called cis and I ain't like that shit. Like, I was expecting that, right? But then I was also I was willing to put myself in this space to be like, okay, so why didn't you like it? So that I can understand X, Y, and Z. And then there are people combating it and saying like, oh, well, don't call me that. And I'm like, I won't. Like, I respect that. I respect the fact that you don't want to be called cis. And if I'm talking directly to you or referring to you, I won't say it, right? But there's not that same respect for trans people when we say like, hey, I've been respectful to you. And so the fact that you still feel the need to come out of the woodwork and be like, oh, you a man, like, what was that about? And why is that for? Well, I mean, you are. It's just the truth. Why is there defense around that? Or why do you get to have defense around that? But then when a trans person says, I'm calling you cis because that's literally what you are, and it's just another term for it. But no, I'm normal. I don't need another term. It's the same shit. They're synonymous. They're literally synonymous. And it's just like, oh, no, but well, no, every time I've heard it used, it's been used to make me feel bad. Use it in a sentence. I've tried, like, in my mind, even if I wanted to insult a cisgender person with the word cis, it sounds dumb, which is another reason why the upper hand against homomisia and transmisia don't make sense, because it's easy to make gay feel bad. Even though it's not necessarily inherently a bad word, it's easy for it because socially we've put that in our mind, like, oh, that's gay, right? Like, it's easy to turn tranny or any of those things into a slur. Thinking about like, oh, you're so cis. Like, that just sounds dumb. That sounds really stupid to me. And it's because the word innately was not meant for that purpose. And societally, we haven't had a conversation and come together and said, we all agree that this is kind of egregious. Like, nobody's done that. Stop trying to be oppressed. It's the oppression Olympics. We're not oppressed enough, so I'm going to use this so I can have something over you.
The oppressed Olympics.
It happens.
Some people are going for gold.
All the time. And I do think there is also, when we talk about, like on our previous show, when we talk about the decolonization of sex and what was done to us here, that there is always in order to make it, I have to emulate my oppressor. And it's interesting because you look at other European societies right now. They are way more open and understanding of things than America, but America always has to create a boogeyman or boogie lady. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like right now, trans folk are the boogie people because they got what they wanted with abortion.
Right.
Abortion
so now
was
they're
the
moving.
big fucking thing for mad years, and especially if you look at the history of the movement of the pro-life movement. Right before that, it was keeping black folk out of schools, and they lost that one. So they were like, we need some new shit to rile people up, and now this is the new thing. Because shit, you go to a lot of communities, there's trans folk in every community, every color, every social bracket you could possibly imagine, and has been that way for years. But now all of a sudden, the shit is the biggest fucking talking point in the world.
It's also like a, hey, look over there while we do this thing over here. And I keep telling people that too. Like, y'all wondering why every time we look up, like because my thing is they distract us with we passed this trans bill didn't get passed, because that keeps the social conversation going. See, they getting all of these things and black people still ain't got X, Y, and Z, or haha, y'all didn't get what y'all wanted this time, X, Y, and Z. But whole time, 6 months from now, mark my words, we're going to find out that some major thing for black people or something like that got passed. And we're going to be like,
when they did this?
When did they even? When y'all was arguing about the word cis on Twitter.
Well, I mean, you see that here in Florida. All the books that they pulling out, they're saying like, oh, we don't want this gender conversation in schools.
But y'all
and also we taking out
everything.
Maya Angelou or
and
some
all
shit.
of that.
You know what I'm
but
saying?
they had to put them right the fuck back.
And also I think for black folk, we need to stop that shit, because when you take the black people who are LGBTQIA out of our conversation, we're losing our family. You can't take our family out the conversation. So I think that shit is detrimental as fuck to the community.
Well, we're losing our damn selves, because
Well, that too, but I mean, like,
the people that be the loudest they be struggling.
Yeah.
They be struggling.
But I think, like, and then also not even just the people who are the loudest, but the people who listen to the loudest people. Those are
Right.
sometimes the ones who get to be the dangerous people, because
They
they can't
are.
use their words.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that this conversation, if you look at the history of black folk from America to the continent to all over, this is a part of our story. And you look at native folk here in this land, part of our story. But then in order to oppress us, in order to make us specifically made sexually to reproduce, to make them money, they're gonna cut out any version of love that we had anywhere.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So emulating them is only gonna kill ourselves at the end of the day.
Indeed.
So I'm curious to know, when we're talking about the decolonization of sex, and King and I have pulled stories from many different cultures where trans folks, gay folks, just all kinds of expressions of love and identity have come across. For you, what was that? What's like your historical reference that gives you pride, that lets you know like you've been here long before a law or a bill or what have you?
Honestly, I have to lean into like the great Marshal, like, and not just for Stonewall. Like, when I really like dug deep into Marshal, she was that girl. Like, she went to the rallies and the spaces, and what people fail to realize about her was that before she threw that brick, she was still dealing with the ramifications of dealing with the white gays, and then like the gays of color in the community. Right. And then also the Harlem Renaissance was happening when all of that was happening too. So as a black person in America, and one that was living in New York at the time, she wasn't only dealing with that, but she's dealing with all these other things. And she was still boisterous, and she would show up to both spaces knowing that she wasn't wanted, because the gays didn't know how to deal with a trans or a non-binary expression at the time. They were just like, we're women who like women and men who like men. What the fuck are you, right? And if you weren't a drag queen, or if that wasn't something that you took off, they didn't understand how to deal. And so while people might revere her now, even in that time, there's video footage of her and Sylvia being booed at the Pride rally right before Stonewall. And now that same moment is solidified in history. And I just feel like to be somebody that was a trailblazer in that time where literally there were actual laws that said that you could not walk around like that. And Marshall said, fuck that shit. And I dare you to lock me the fuck up. And did. Got locked up a bunch of times for the freedom of expression. But it never stopped her from coming out. It never stopped her from doing it for the community. The boys didn't fuck with her. The lesbians didn't fuck with her. The only other people that bothered with her were maybe the drag queens on a good day. But her and Sylvia and people like us and Stormy and all of those folks, they had to get it out of the mud, and they would still go and fight for the people who didn't see it for them. And I feel like for me, that's how I know I've been here before. Like, that's me. I don't care how many cis women have been like, oh, you a man. Like, you not about to talk about black women in general, because regardless of whether they acknowledge it, I'm a black woman. And so I'm not about to let you play in my face or the faces of any black woman, trans or cis. You're not finna come over here and talk shit about trans people, white, black, or indifferent. We not about to have those games. And the same thing, and all of my intersections live at once over here. So regardless of the miss or the transgressions of a few people in my life, I'm still gonna go. And I feel like Marshall was like the epitome of that. Like, I don't care how many of y'all don't let me in these little gay clubs. I don't care how many of y'all throw tomatoes at us on these stages. When it comes time to stand up for the spaces that we feel safe in, I'm throwing the first brick. Follow me, you know? And I really appreciate that legacy.
That's what's up.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. It makes me sad because, like, during Pride Month, that is like the poster child, right? And then to think that during that time, but I can't think of a leader that has sacrificed and didn't have those experiences at that time, that now we're like trying to have a holiday after.
Word, they got Malcolm X on a stamp.
I mean, even if we want to be more colloquial, Lil Kim, right? Like,
Word.
I mean, how long did it take for us to like really acknowledge her as an icon in the moment? Like, the fashion world and them white people was like, yeah, we were the ones leaning on our grandmas and them like, oh, like, this is not respectable. Now Lil Kim is the queen bee, iconic fashion so-and-so, sexual liberator. There would be no Meg and Cardi if there wasn't for Kim. But it's just like, where were her flowers when she was doing this?
Yeah.
Like, where were her flowers when she was legitimately being iconic? And not from them people, like, not for nothing. And this is so off topic, but it's one of those things where it's just like, we as a community want to vilify Kim and laugh at her for all the changes that she made. But we have to remember, she's emulating the people that were giving her love. Yes, she was in the spaces with them, and so she wanted to be more appealing to them, because the black people was telling you, oh, you too skinny to be in those poses. You're too X, Y, and Z to be dressing like that. You ain't got enough booty to be doing what Foxy doing. And so guess what? She found her audience of people. And unfortunately, along with finding that audience of people, you still realize that they still racist. They're not here for you. They're using you for your brand, all of these things. And so there's also this need to be bodied, and the boys want booty, and the boys want titties, and the boys want this and that. But now you've already tried to do this and that at the same time, and now we have this mixture of a person that we don't even like visually recognize. And we want to blame it on her, but like, honestly, it's the culture. The same culture we go up for is the same culture that turns a lot of our greats into people that we turn into memes, unfortunately. And I think that that's what happens for the trans community too.
That's real.
I love Lil Kim, and I was drawing her flowers when I was like, 14, 13 years old. I just couldn't get them to her.
I definitely had that little post up. And
you was probably drawing her.
One of the flowers.
So, yes, sort of off topic, but you went into fashion and appearances and beauty standards. One of our folks asked, let me get to it directly so that I don't mess it up.
For everybody listening in right now, we took some questions from the BX team, the RFF team, and some fans.
Okay, so where did it go? Okay, you mentioned in a post, so they following, your connection to your hair and sense of identity. And for those of you, if you're not following Hope, follow Hope, because you will figure out how to not only gather the white folks, but gather your whole look.
Right. Every morning.
Oh, God. Can you elaborate on your evolution with various beauty standards? And this person, I had a chat with them, they were really pulled into your conversation about what we as women go through with cutting our hair, changing our hairstyle. And then, you know, I remember when you and I took a picture and you couldn't see the ponytail, you could just see the shaved, and people were like, that looked like a man. And I remember like, you know, that comment I will never know who that person was, where it came from, but I remember it taking the air out of me. And I've had my hair cut. It was just the idea of someone perceiving me different than I am, and therefore they must not think that I am beautiful. So talk to us about hair, evolution of beauty standards, and where you are with that.
I mean, hair for me, it's all expressive. It really is. It's a way that I express myself. It's a way that I express my vibe and my mood. But I think at the beginning of transition, hair was like the saving grace, child. Like before there was ever a stick of Mac or anything, there was always a good piece of hair. Like I would literally go broke. Refund checks would come, and like my whole refund check was good wigs, because I never wanted to be. When I was growing up, my mama is still very much so hood and slightly ignorant, okay? And my mama used to always say, like, the one thing, you could be whatever you want to be, but you're not going to be no dusty foot ass punk. And if you from Florida, you know exactly what that means, right? And that always stuck with me, because I was just like, you know what? You can say whatever you want to say about me, but you're never going to say she's not put together. You're never going to say the wig was ratted and matted in the back. Like, you're never going to say any of those things. And so for me, it was like that armor, because it worked, because I didn't start transitioning until I was in college. And what I found was that even if they giggled because I was this different looking, you know, person trying to do their thing, they couldn't help but respect the fact that I was always fly.
Hair was laid.
But that bitch hair be laid though. Them shoes, bitch, she be dressed. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had to give it to me in one way or another. And so I started to kind of sort of like morph from the hair. And I was like, okay, well, how do I pull all of this together, you know? And then the makeup became a thing. And what I realized was that the more I got into it, the more I got away from it. And I realized that I was like, I'm going to work every day. I'm painting on all of this clown ass makeup that I thought was so cute. Like at one point I lived for like a cut crease and like heavy blue liner and like heavy blue liner, you know, all of the things. And I just woke up one day and I was like, you look like a fucking clown. Like, this ain't what you want. Like, this is never the version of a woman that you saw for yourself being. You're hiding. And I don't think I've ever felt ugly or unattractive. Before transition, after transition, I've always just felt judged. Ooh. And so there was a thing where it was like, I don't want to be judged, and so I'm going to paint it on and I'm going to wig it up and I'm going to do all of the things because this is going to be how I live. And once I realized that I couldn't live like that no more, I made my first cut in probably like 2018 or so. And I remember I was on live, and it was the funniest thing, but also the most traumatic thing, because nobody really knows this. I got on Facebook Live with the intention to give myself a TWA. I wanted just like a little teeny weeny afro, for those people that don't know. Speak black lady hair lingo, right? So I wanted a teeny weeny afro, and I had just got these clippers from my stepmama, didn't know what I was doing, didn't know what a guard was, okay?
Oh, shit.
And so I had these braids, and I had like a good amount of new growth, but when you don't know what you're doing.
You touched the scalp?
I touched the scalp because I thought that I was gonna have a steady enough hand to kind of like shape it up. And literally on camera, I wanted to die because I was like, you just cut
bald.
You're bald. And I didn't start in the back, or I started right here. I'll never forget that first cut. And Facebook is watching this. And so as bad as I want to cry, the person that wants to be a social media influencer is like, bitch, you bet not. Because if you do that, then this becomes embarrassing. And I was like, in a split moment, I was like, how is this empowering? And I just kept cutting. And I was just like, I feel free, and I feel this, and I da-da-da-da. And as I was talking myself down from having a fucking nervous breakdown live on Facebook, I started to believe what I was saying. And it hit me. And I was like, you are all of these things. And this does look good. And fuck this hair. And who cares about, what these people are going to think. And I went to work like that, bald head and all, at Mac, just bald head, bare face, just doing all. And that was the beginning of me understanding that I didn't need those things. I was made to believe that if I didn't show up in this hyper feminine way, that I was no longer desirable. For years before that, in college, dealing with these DL thug trade niggas and telling you that you got to have on a full face if they're going to come over and fuck you. Why? You gonna shove my face in the pillow for the next 30 minutes? What is the point? Why? Like, what's the point? You don't want to really look at me. You just can't get one of these little girls on campus, and here I am, low self-esteem like shit, and you know it. So you really just come over here to get your rocks off. But you still have prerequisites for me, and all of that stuff carries into the way that you handle life. And once I cut them off and cut my hair off and let all of that trauma go, I realized, like, girl, it could be whatever I want it to be. It could be locked, it could be braided, it could be dreaded. Like, I've been short hair, don't care for the longest. I was feeling a little, yesterday. So we put a little coiffed on, but like right now my favorite look is my little blonde, short, like it's my favorite thing. And I feel powerful in it, and I can tell that it translates because I never get more attention than when I'm bald head. I'm bald head, and where most trans girls would cringe, that is when I feel the most powerful, because that's when the necks are broken. Like men, women, everybody, the necks are broken when I'm bald. When I have on the armor that I think is saving me, that is actually the thing that puts it in my mind that I need to be on alert, because now they can see me. When I don't have anything to hide, when the bone structure is out and all, I'm just like, okay, y'all see it. But when I think that I can tuck something away, I'm kind of looking to see if you see that I'm tucking. And I had to get away from that. And that was what happened on that live, was like, I was just reminding people, like, while I understand that there's a privilege, once again, going back into that like pretty privilege, that whole thing, I understand that there's a privilege to it, but there has to be an acknowledgement of why. And if the answer is for anybody other than you, it's wrong. And I had been doing it for everybody, but I'm talking about literally, I would get home from work, wipe my face off, realize that I needed to go grab groceries at the Walmart of all places.
And put it back on?
And put a whole face. Not like, like a little, no, a full face, eyeshadow, lashes and all, to make a 30-minute trip to the Walmart.
No, ma'am.
It was horrible.
No.
It was horrible. But there are so many trans girls, and especially like fresh new ones in the transition, that will do that. And people don't understand that, like, if folks just minded their own fucking business, like the traumas that so many people are experiencing that then turn into nasty ass trans girls online saying fucked up ass shit, because I'm not gonna act like we all innocent, but I think that a lot of that comes from the trauma of having to constantly armor yourself every single day, and it being valid, because even with the armor on, they still got something to say, So yeah.
Damn, that's real.
I think about when the time that you shaved your head. And we went to the barbershop, and dude was trying to talk you like you was about to jump off of a building. He was like really trying to talk you down off of that shit. And I think about that, and I also think about what you just said with makeup. Men don't got to do shit.
Nothing.
Not a thing.
Most men don't even think
shave.
to
Don't even shave or get a haircut.
wash their ass.
Right. No, don't.
None of that shit. But there is so many levels, and I think you touched on you said it perfectly about hyper femininity. And this goes back to bills, it goes back to laws, it goes back to all of these acceptance things of people having to hyper fucking everything instead of just letting people be. And it's like, if you have to, in our industry, you know what I'm saying, the backlash, and this has nothing to do with what you're attracted to or physical care, whatever. But like, I see backlash on women for having pubic hair or armpit hair. Like nasty, mean fucking shit. People just going off, and it's like, yo, if you don't like pubic hair, there's a whole lot of porn stars who don't have that shit.
Yeah.
Like, just move the fuck on.
No, they can't.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but I think that what it comes down to is people define themselves by these ideals of like, well, I'm attracted to this, so that makes me this, right? But if I see you and I'm attracted to you, then what? Or if I see you with cutting your hair and I'm attracted to you, what the fuck does that make me now? You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's why you'll get the same people who are commenting on your shit. Like, that's a great point. But now that you made that point, because I know this extra shit, oh shit, I fucking agree with her. My whole fucking world is fucked. You know what I'm saying? And people are not open to having a greater understanding. They're like, I need this understanding because my whole fucking world is based on this one understanding. And anything that rattles that destroys that shit.
We're going to be shattering a lot of people's worldview.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know you've experienced some of shattering people's worldview because you're not a bigot. Well, before you speak, because we hear from you all the time. Hope, you're familiar with Royal Fetish films.
I'm familiar. Me and my rose are very familiar. And Penelope never mind. But yes, we're familiar.
So, you know, and if it doesn't feel too awkward, we could always cut if we need to. What was that like? What was that experience? What is that experience like when you see someone like King Noir, who was mostly prominently known for being the like, I'm trying to talk about you like you're not here.
Right, like you're not.
Like this, like sex icon in the porn world, and you know, bringing black kink and then his own growth and development on camera, at least, and working with trans women in the way that he does.
Yeah. First of all, I found it was recent for me. Shouts out to Nick at Erotic Boudoir. That's my babe. But Nick and I are really, really good friends. I talk to Nick every day. I'm going to call her after this. But Nick was like, "Oh, did you?" And I was like, "We talking about the same King Noir, right?" And she was like, "Yeah, bitch, I didn't know." And I was like, "The link, please." And so I'm watching, and for me, and I think for a lot of trans women, because I sent it to a bunch of people, just because I needed the girls to know, not even just for the fact that it was sexy, but I needed the girls to know. But it was one of those things where, like, for me, I was so affirmed because a lot of the time, what people want to do is discredit the men that are attracted to us.
Yes.
And so, and no tea, no shade, there's some truth to some of it, right? Like, some of the guys are definitely given, like, I sit at home in my mama's basement and, you know, troll people, right? But for the most part, there are plenty of men that are attractive, well established, doing their own thing, all of the stuff, serving up the cis women, and are still attracted to us and willing to say it. And I love the idea that it wasn't like, no offense, but some classically unattractive person that was making, I don't even know if you want to call it that, like this stand. I think that you were doing your job and you were doing what the fuck you wanted, and that was, you know, what it was in the moment. But it was a stand on my end to say, like, I'm gonna do what I want to do because I'm gonna work with who I want to work with, and just like I choose the other people that I want to have access to my body, I chose this person, and that's just what it is. And there was no, at least not as far as I know, there was no like, oh, I'm gonna make a grand statement about it. It was just, this is my job. You either gonna watch it and like it or not, and I'm through with it. And there was something really endearing about that, and especially considering that it encompassed sex. Most of the time, it's like these things where sex is like insinuated. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Whatever the case may be, you can retract the statement. But when it's something that's so like,
here it is.
And then I'm going to follow that up with inclusive talking and language points, and not like a rebuttal as to who I am, but I'm just going to let y'all know that I'm not this guy, right? That was just really great. And so many people who do have a lot larger platforms that all the girls know about, they're not doing those things. And it's just like, here we are having this person who, low key, you could have lost your whole career. They could have been like, oh, absolutely the fuck not, right? But you have people that really don't stand to lose anything. The people that run y'all pockets are people that don't give a fuck about who you having sex with. Can you dribble the ball? Can you rap the song? Can you do the whatever, right? But these are people that directly, they stop watching, they pass it around enough on Black Twitter, the sales go down, and then I got to go find something else to do. And that to me just felt like, that's a Black king right there. You know? And I really appreciated it.
That's so awesome.
I'm just hyped that you watching it.
I mean, you know.
I'm hyped that the girls are watching.
Yeah, I mean, they watch. I made sure, and then I blocked them for the rest of my stuff.
There was a conversation that you had maybe it was in your stories where you were talking about like, there's a lot of people who don't want cis women and trans women to have a conversation.
Yeah.
They don't want us to kiki, right? And I thought that was so funny because it's like, yeah, that's kind of like the same thing that's used cis women to cis women, trans women. Like it's always, divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Like if you want to run one over on us, keep us at odds with each other. And it's interesting because I actually I shot with a trans woman before you on camera, right? Okay, and nobody cared about my scene. You liked it.
I love that scene. That scene was hot as fuck.
That scene is good.
Vampire scene and all that shit.
It was really good.
It was the vampire.
The vampire. I was gonna say it was the
I'm
vampire.
all for that shit.
It was my pre-baby body for me. That's what does it for me. It was a good scene. But when King started to shoot, I started to get so many messages like, how do you feel about that? Is it okay? Did I give permission? Are things different in our relationship now? Like all of these things where I know that everything was fine between us and we discussed it. We discussed it when I shot, like how we talk about everybody that we discuss, right? But it did. I was like, should I be feeling different? Is this gonna change? Has something changed? Is he looking at me differently? Or is he looking for something more that I don't, like all of these things came up and we really did have to have a conversation about, and I also realized though that those same feelings were there about other things. So when we first started shooting porn, it's like, are you okay that he's shooting with white women? Are you okay that he's shooting with this? So reality is there's insecurities everywhere. They see that we're thriving as a couple, as a business, and then we decide to do something. We're literally doing what we tell people we're going to do, explore our sex and sexuality.
That's the mission statement.
That's the mission. We want to do all the kinky things and in the safest way possible with all the types of people that we can. We are literally doing the thing that we incorporated this company for.
Facts.
And people are like, are you sure?
Are you okay?
Are you okay? Are things okay? So you have some thoughts about that?
It's interesting though, because I think anything with porn, and it goes back to that same point of where people are like, some people don't like to admit it, but they vicariously live through porn stars the same way they do with actors and actresses of other sorts or athletes or whatever. It's just, this is where they vicariously live their sex lives. So it's like, if you fall down a rabbit hole in any particular direction, you're going to wind up in some different shit, whether it's different people, whether it's different sexual acts or whatever. But the thing is, if you're on even X videos or Pornhub, that shit does give you categories in regards to gender. Right. So if you're crossing over that shit, what the fuck you mad at me for? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I know, because I have to be in the back end of these things, posting my shit to specific shits. And personally, I don't think it should be like that.
Right.
Like, for me, it's easy. When I see the little fucking box, if it's some shit that I'm not into, I don't just keep on fucking scrolling. And if I watch it and it has some shit I'm not into, I stop the fucking video and go fucking put a better search in for what I'm looking for. And that doesn't bother me. Like, if I see two people doing something that I'm not particularly into, good for them. Let me move on to the next thing. So I think some of the backlash and some of the things that I've received in that way, the way people come at me with it, I'm always like, this shit hurt you more than like, you feel more of a way about this than I do. So this ain't really a conversation between me and you. This a conversation you need to have with yourself. You know, and I think that it's that way too. Like, it's interesting, like you said, he worked with white women. Like, I've had like crazy, insane racist who I think is possibly it's white men messaging me. You know what I'm saying? Like, coming from that particular thing. Where it's like, you also need to have that racism is a problem with you. That shit is not mine. And I feel like it's the same kind of thing with all the phobias in regards to gender and sex. It's like, if you really don't fuck with it, just let it go.
Let it go.
And go watch your own shit.
So,
but as for like actually the shoots that we have done, for me, it's always been like, I don't like, the same way when we had started Royal Fetish Films, we were like, black people are not shot well in this industry. Black people are not treated well in this industry, and specifically in regards to seeing passion, beauty, and some like kinky
Variety.
shit where we're
Come on.
not the fetish.
Yes.
And I felt like when it came to me shooting with trans performers as well, like I'm not trying to fetishize my other performers I'm with regardless of their gender. So like when people will hit me up and they'll say those derogatory words, even if they're saying they like that shit, I'm gonna correct that shit. Because it'd be the same as if you hit me up like for working with a Spanish person and you were like, why you working with that spick or something? Like, nah, yo, the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
Don't call me no nigga. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't do that shit. You know, so it's to me, that part is almost as important as making a beautiful, enjoyable, passionate, kinky fucking scene with another talented performer.
Yes.
You know, because it's like the back end, whether it's the hate or even the love, where people need to understand, like, yeah, you can love people of all types, but you shouldn't disrespect them, because then it's not love anymore.
Right.
You're fetishizing this person. So like those parts have been like the important part. And for you, we have the question of, since we did kind of delve into porn right now, and I'll even extend this for mainstream romantic films.
Okay.
How do you think those of us who also work behind the camera can better portray trans folk on camera?
Know how, or get to know how the girls want to be seen. Because I think that it's the same thing for photography. And like you said, even with mainstream movies. Because even in watching Pose, what I found, colorism. Okay, double whammy, okay. Because that just made me think of something. But my first point is, get to know how the girls want to be seen. I hate doing photo shoots or like anything where I'm on camera and I can tell that the person is just doing their job, but they don't, like, because it's one thing when you don't give a fuck about the talent on a regular basis, but it's another thing when you don't give a fuck about the talent because you know that I'm trans. Because then they shoot you how they feel about you. The angle is off, the lighting is dark, they come from an angle that make your jaw look like Quagmire, like they accentuate your muscle, like all type of stuff. And it's just like, if you have conversations with most of the binary trans girls, at least, we be trying to look as soft and as feminine as all of it. Like, you put all of this time and effort and money, you know, into this look, and then a person will bypass all of the shit that you did to like accentuate the one thing that you left out or the one thing that you can't afford to get fixed or whatever the case may be. And it's just like, those are things that I hate to see. Like in porn, like that was why that scene was also so pivotal for me, because I felt like she looked beautiful. Like a lot of the people, like they just look beautiful. I see them as women who happen to have this little thing, right? But
this big thing, girl.
right, this big thing. But like you forget it until like there's something that's overtly happening, but you forget it. It's like any other sex scene, and I commend y'all for that, like 1,000%, because most of the other porn that I watch with trans girls, I can't stomach it because it just looks real rock'em sock'em robot. It like at certain points I'm like, is this giving gay porn? Not because she looks any type of way, but because of the way that they shoot it. And it's just like, no, like we still want to look and appear and be soft and feminine, but also like don't fuck us like you fucking your homeboy that you trying to get in before your mama come home from work. Like that's the other thing too. I think that it's not just about like how do you make them look good like cinematically, but how do you make them feel good and rest in their femininity while they are doing this act or this thing. Like if they are topping, how do you reassure her that you're still the man in the situation? I'm just giving you what you want, right? And not make her feel like this is your masculine thing and this is the thing, like that the fetishizing of it. And then to talk about the colorism, the thing that I do notice is that oftentimes when I do see videos of white or Latina trans women, they don't have no problem with them making them look feminine. They look real cunt and fishy till they turn around, right? And for me, what I see is like, even when the black girls do professional work, it don't matter how beautiful, how stunning, and I'm talking about no filter, no makeup, no lash, no nothing. They will get on that camera and somehow you'll see a whole different side of this girl that you've never seen before. Makeup, no makeup, filter, no filter. All of a sudden, she looked like DeAndre from up the block. And you like, how did they even accomplish this? Like, this girl is gorgeous. And it's just, it sucks because I feel like even when trans, you can't escape the idea that it's more desirable to be anything but a dark-skinned black person.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the thing too, is like understanding how to light Black bodies and understanding how to like really fill the space without making her look like the biggest person in the room, because oftentimes we are larger than the person that we're, with. And it's just like, make me look big and powerful the way that you do those dominatrixes. Like when I watch dom porn, like them bitches don't look masculine. They look like powerful women. And it's like, why can't you take that same approach when you're doing those things with trans women? And it almost feels like sometimes it feels like it's to cater to the people that have that fetish for, because some people only like trans women for the sake of being able to see that she's optically trans, right? Like some of them don't care for the girls that pass and just have a stick. But it's one of those things where it's just like, when you do certain things in certain angles, it makes me feel like you're trying to like almost knock her down a peg. Like when she see this, I know she not gonna, like, she don't look like that in her Instagram pictures. Like I'm gonna show her, like, bitch, you still a man. Like, and I've had to like check certain photographers about that. Like I have a whole photo shoot and like the whole time it's given, oh my God, I hope, yeah, it's beautiful. I get the edits back and I'm like, why you got my bicep popping like that? Like, why would you choose that angle? And why did you go from that direction? Like, what? Like, what is this? Like, I have on a chiffon gown and you making it seem like I'm stuffed in this thing that fits me perfectly, but you catching all the angles where it looks like I've thrown myself in my little sister's clothes. And it feels purposeful because it feels like I don't really want to do this, but your money green. And those are the things that I don't like.
I see that also with porn that features trans men as well, where it's like they're trying to
feminize them,
either feminize them or be like, but this is a real man. You know what I'm saying? Like the way
It's
that
like
they'll
a
shoot
breaking
it.
that thing. Yeah.
It's very interesting to see how that's shot as well. And I feel you when it's trans women, because it's interesting, because personally, it's my art form. So like I watch all different types of porn to see how people are shooting shit. And I think with depending on the gay porn you find, it's either like wild brutal or it's the opportunity to see men in a softer way. Right? And then it's like lesbian porn, for the most part, is always shot like it's a Barbara Walters special. You know what I'm saying? Like from back in the day with the Vaseline and shit.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's always shot like or what was her name? Carrie Lake, that lady that was running there. It was shot like a campaign commercial for her and shit. But it's like, I think when it comes to and then also then when you get to the intersection of Black and all of that, Black porn always was like, why are they in jail? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's the same, the tropes that they use in trans porn.
Yeah.
It's like the trickery.
Oh man,
or
I had to turn down a shoot actually, because they were like, we want you to be in a scene where it is like you're married and then it's a trans person who comes over, and then like it was like somewhere there was like a trick, like tricking my wife and this, that, and the other.
Cheat on your wife? No, we can't do that.
And it's like, yo, people literally know me for being in a relationship.
Right.
And they also now know that I work with all different performers.
Right.
Why? I don't want to be in that. I don't like those kind of scenes in that sense, because it's like, that's what they're literally trying to tell us about trans folk everywhere, which kind of leads into my other question about sports right now. It is like one of the ways that they're getting all of these laws passed across the states right now is like people are transitioning to join their little league team.
Hold on, wait.
Yes.
But I mean, that's how they're presenting it. Like
they really are.
First and foremost, is like this child, and also this goes to the other point of like they don't talk about trans boys or young trans men at all in these situations because of that. We're real men, right? But in regards to trans women being involved in any kind of sports, then it's this whole insane conversation that's going on right now, and I'm very interested on your take.
Also, what's your relationship to sports?
Yeah, I do fuck with sports at all.
I don't like fuck with sports as in like watch them. Like you can't pay me to watch too much of nothing. But like growing up, I grew to enjoy football after being forced to play. But like the first year I was forced to play and like that pissed me off. The second year I wanted to like, I was doing that whole like parental, I want you to love me, so I'm gonna be the boy that you want me to be this year. And so I went to my mom and I was like, I want to play, you know, and she was all excited. And I was good. It wasn't like I was bad. It wasn't like I was a bench rider. Like I was good. And my mom came to one game the entire season. And that broke me. But it also reminded me that it wasn't about me actually playing, it was about her being able to say that I play, right? Versus not being able to say much when other people ask, especially because I was visibly, I've always been queer in some sort of way. And so I think that was the thing that really like irked me about it. But I enjoyed it because it was a way to get rid of my aggression and my anger. Like I wasn't really the kid that wanted to fight everybody or do the things. And so I would let a lot of stuff slide, but I would be able to go on the football field and wreck shop. And I did. And it was so bad to the point where, I got the nickname of FISM. We had this one game. And when I tell y'all, like, I don't know where these boys came from. They were not our age. I don't care what nobody says. Like, there was no way. It was a group of white boys, and they were all big as shit. And I think we all had to be, like, maybe, like, 12, 13. And these boys were huge. And all of us were like, who is this college team? Like, where did they come from? And I just remember on my way to the field, there was an older woman and her husband, and like I walked by and I heard her go like, "What? I know he not playing twisting like no little sissy like that. They definitely not go," something to that effect. And baby, why she did that?
She put that battery in.
I got up there and this white boy went to talking shit, and before I knew it, he was on his back and I was standing over him spitting. Oh. And I just was like, oh my God. And like my coach pulls me out of the game. And he's like, what was you doing? I was like, because he motherfucking. And they were just like, you get physical when you get upset. And so they nicknamed me the FISM. So like I do have a good relationship, I guess, in that way to it. But nowadays I'm just like, whatever, I don't really care. But as it pertains to like the entire topic of trans people in sports, they don't talk about trans men, but trans men are dominating all the sports that they're in. And let's be very clear about this. And one of the major ones is boxing, which is the most hands-on, physical, MMA, all of that stuff. And trans men are in there kicking the shit out of cisgender men every other match. And nobody's talking about it. And it's because it's an embarrassment, right? Because in your mind, it's a woman. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want to publicize that because this big-ass cisgender man that's been boxing for the last 17 years got taken down by this woman who's only been boxing for the last 2 years, and she's only been on whatever they take for like 6 months. How you let this woman beat you up, dog? That headline don't read as well. No. But the headline that does read well is 6'7" high school student beats out all of these young girls after 7 years of failing in the male categories. Like the way that it's crazy. But to me, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't have a say-so in the sports because I'm not playing. Most of the girls, when you ask them outside of CNN and Fox and all the fake news people, most of them girls don't care. And they get on social media to tell you that they don't care. And it's just like, we read these headlines, but then when I get on social media and you see the girls from the team actually commenting like, this ain't really what it was. We was mad at her because actually she said this thing in the stands and that's why, and then they took it and ran with it. Now you have some parents that will force their children to get up here and propagate like, oh, I'm so sad that I lost. Oh my God. What? But that's really not it. But I think as it pertains to the topic of whether or not, it's not up to me. I'm not a cis girl that has to run against her. But I feel like what I will say and what does bother me is you knew she was trans before y'all started running. So why am I not seeing more articles where it says cis runner refuses to run because of the unfair conditions of having to compete against a man, right? I'm not seeing that. Y'all don't bitch and complain until you run and lose. And so that's my whole thing is you got up there, you accepted the challenge, and now you're going to complain and use this as an excuse because you lost. No, sis, go back to the drawing board and do better. That's where I stand on that. Okay. If you're going to accept the challenge, then be ready. But especially when it comes down to track and field, I think like that one really touches me, and that's the one that always comes up for whatever reason. But it's like when we were kids, we would be out in the field running against each other, boys, girls, and you would live to be a girl that beat the boys back in the day because it meant something. Like, I don't know what it meant, but we thought that it meant something like, oh, she smoked y'all. Now it's, oh my God, I don't want to run against this. Like, why? Like, really? Stop.
I think it's like for me, the part that fucks me up is like men's perception that no matter what, a man is more athletically gifted than a woman, no matter what. Most of y'all fucking men out there is gonna get smoked by a woman, whether it's a cis woman, a trans woman,
a toddler,
or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Whoever
like,
show up for
y'all
the race.
motherfuckers is slow, or can't swim, or can't catch, or can't shoot a fucking basketball. Like if you put most of them, if you put Ron DeSantis on a basketball court against what's this name from LSU that was dominating in the women's final for she gonna body him. Not because he's a man or she's a woman, but because she's more skilled and a better athlete. You know what I'm saying? And I think we have as a like society, like they separate men's sports, women's sports. I remember there was like this young girl in Texas that was like trying to play football, and people were making this whole big stink about it. Yo, if she could ball, let her ball. And I think that if I can understand for people if they want to have certain separations and this, that, and the other, but if somebody good enough, like personally, I would have loved to have seen Cheryl Miller in the NBA. She'd have been fucking dominating. You know what I'm saying? Like there's times, and I always tell you this story, like one time we used to go ball at this spot in Jersey, and an assist from WNBA showed up. And motherfuckers was talking wild shit.
Body day.
Like I'm fuck her. Yo, she wasn't even trying hard. Just on basketball IQ, she was fucking people up, making a right pass, little like she wasn't even exerting a crazy amount of energy to make people look stupid. Like, dude, she's a fucking professional.
Right.
Period.
Regardless, you out here on weekends. You not fucking with her. You know what I'm saying? But like there is this thing that men have that's just automatically like, dude, you're not beating up Ronda Rousey. Shut the fuck up.
Right.
You're not going to beat up Layla Ali. At all. You know what I'm saying? And I think that hierarchy, that there is this perception that men are supposed to always physically dominate women, fuck shit up on that level.
Yep.
And then it goes to what you just said also about, about trans men fucking people up too. And it's like that shit is fucking up all the things.
I need to see those stats. I want to go into that. I want to become a super fan. I want to
here. There's like there was like one article that really like made the headlines, and after it did, like the comments were all just like, oh, but he went easy on her and all of it. Like, no, Mike, you got your ass beat. And I think that's why they stopped focusing on trans men in sports, because they realized that trans men were excelling, which completely then negates the other argument. But it's also like they like to pick and choose which parts of the story they want to tell. Like even with the swimmer Mia, right? So what's really interesting is that Mia lost every other race that she swam that day. Drastically. Not even like, by a hair. No, she lost drastically, and there were 7. So mind you, this woman swam 7 other times, lost 7 other times, and then this one race is the race that they like, oh, she went in and dominated. No, sis was like, I done lost all day. I need one.
And everybody else was tired.
Tired from winning.
Well, I think that's kind of like the same argument that comes down to things like with the bathroom. 'Cause I mean, like at home, my bathroom doesn't have a
let me tell you about King's bathroom usage.
On the bathroom.
Let me tell you about how King uses the
none of our bathrooms, yours included.
It's here.
But
he's a picky bathroomer.
I want to get away from the topic for a second to talk about you, King.
Your bathroom.
So King showers in one bathroom. He shaves in another one. And I believe he does his business. Talk about men dominating space.
I feel like you do the same thing with all the. I mean, when you have more than
not the call out for the call out.
word, it's like yo, if you got. I always had more than one bathroom. Now that I got more than one, I want to use all of them, make sure that they all get a little love.
In one bathroom setting.
Look here.
No, but okay.
But no, I think like with the same thing though with bathrooms, like there are the cases. They're not making a case. It's always like, well, if people go into the bathroom and then they see somebody who has different parts, what the fuck? Oh my God. First of all, in any bathroom, why you in they stall?
That part, especially in women's bathroom, we don't have no urinal.
Right,
we don't have no shared space.
But then also, if you're talking about the safety of people, men, you're not trying to just keep men from. Are you trying to keep men from raping other men in the bathroom too? Like what? Y'all not caring about people's safety. You're just using this as something that some people are gonna get nervous about or gonna cringe about for whatever fucking reason, and then using that shit to be really fucking hateful.
Yes. I saw this thing, it said, I don't care about trans women in my bathroom, I care about men in my uterus.
Word.
And I was just like, yeah, exactly. That is exactly how I feel. I don't care what's happening in the stalls next to me. I care if it's clean.
Word. Y'all can't
Available.
keep a pubic hair off the fucking urinal.
Right, but you're worried about. So, this is a lot. And I know we covered so much ground. And I know that you are not the representative of all Black trans women across the land, but super, super appreciate you being here and being here for this reason, to actually talk about these topics, because oftentimes people get pulled into topics or to discussions that they need to pass the mic for, right? Or people are inappropriate just because, like, when we're on set or in our spaces, just because someone is there representing any community, it doesn't mean that they're there to educate us or entertain us or, so I really appreciate us having this carved out time to have this conversation in this space. But can we talk about the cool things that are happening in our lives, that there will be hopefully no crazy headlines attached to it, no motherfuckers comments and all of this other shit. Just like, of all the stuff that's going on, all we want to do is live our happy lives with our family and friends. And you have a beautiful engagement and that has, like, I saw the pre-pictures of the pre-pictures of the pre-pictures. I'm like, God damn, what the wedding gonna look like.
Oh, the wedding is gonna be crazy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank y'all. I'm excited. He's just dope. He's really like my best friend and like my little piece of Advil and the little angel on my shoulder.
Yeah.
Like he's all of the things. He's just he means the world to me. And especially for somebody who really had I don't think I would have ever given up on love, right? I think I would have settled for a certain type of love that I did not deserve. But he made it make sense in a lot of ways that things didn't make sense. And he reminded me of my first love in the way that, like, James was very peace and love. And I met James when I was like a freshman in high school, and he was my high school sweetheart all 4 years. And he taught me so much because I was always angry because I felt like I had to be. It was like, it's always a motherfucker saying some shit about me. I just want to go to class, and he was just like, babe, peace and love, like, chill out, calm down. But to the antithesis, I would add like, hey, you need to say something. Like, that ain't, don't. And I feel like I get that same feeling with my partner now. I call him my pumpkin man. And, like, he came in and he knows how to level me. Yeah. And he knows how to level with me. And there's this sense of not being able, like, I can't even stay mad. We'll be in the middle of an argument. I can't stay mad because he's so aloof. Like, that's just not his thing. Like, I'll be yelling and screaming at the top of my lungs, and he'll be like, when you're done, because I'm not doing whatever this is. So when you're done, we can talk. And I'm just like, don't be all emotionally mature right now, because I want to be immature and I want to yell and I want the neighbors to be like, what's going on over there? And he's not here. He is not here for it. But it reminds me, and like what I notice is that like those things don't happen as often, because now I'm just like, he's not going to listen if I do that. So I have to figure out another way to communicate my feelings that don't involve me yelling and screaming. Now I'm still going to be Hope. I'm going to speak the way I need to speak. But I also have learned that like, conversations can't always just result in you piss me off and I don't feel like I'm being listened to, so now I'm just gonna yell, you know. And that just feels really good, and it reminds me of that, like the reason why I fell in love with James all those years ago, because he reminded me like some stuff really ain't, it's not deserving of that energy. Like sometimes you do have to go there, but most of the time you don't, and you be exerting all of this energy for what? You could use that to go do something better. And after that argument, I'm tired, I'm whatever, I'm all of these things, and Pumpkin Man be on the couch chilling. Chilling.
Heart rate steady.
Heart rate steady. I need at least a good 30, 45 more minutes and a talk with my girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? To be like, okay, now I'm good. And I just love him for it.
That sounds like such a perfect match, especially for somebody who's out here fighting.
Baby, and he gets the worst of it, and I think that's the thing too that I appreciate, because he sees all of it. Like when I get off live and I take that deep breath and start crying after I just minister to a bunch of people, and like it's not easy. Like people think that it's easy, and like I used to have to do it by myself, and so imagine like doing all of this shit and then turning the camera off and it's just you in your room, and then you sit with your thoughts. Like now I sit with my future husband and we talk through the things, and he affirms me or checks me, right? Like actually I listened to that, babe, and I see why that person commented that, and I think that you blew over that. You might want to go and apologize, right? And it's the accountability factor, and it's never letting me think that I'm always right, because oftentimes like when you get to the point that I am in any particular community, but specifically for me in my community, the girls, a lot of them, it don't matter whether I'm right or wrong. They just like, yep, whatever Hope said.
They ride for you.
And having somebody that reminds you like, nah, I heard what they said, but I'm telling you how it felt. And I know that there's going to be people that are not going to say it because they love you, but I need you to know like, babe, that didn't sit well. And it's just, it feels good to have a partner and not somebody that just wants to like be attached to the brand. Like he don't care if he get posted. He don't care if he go to the award. Like he just wants to support whatever it is that I have going on, and vice versa. And I think that the thing that I've learned in this relationship too is that my help isn't considered a demasculator. Because I mean, in a lot of the relationships, especially with the work that we do, like I know that y'all have y'all other stuff, but like this social media stuff, it pays. Like, and if you do it right, it pays well. And so it's one of those things where it's just like, I've always made more money than most of the partners that I have because I haven't had a lot. So by the time I started like really getting into the shit, I was doing. And there would be times where like I would help a partner and they would like be like, I didn't ask you for that. Yeah, but you don't have light bill money. Like, what are you gonna be in here with the lights off? No, but it just makes me feel like a girlfriend. So I can't help you. But if I don't help you, but I'm over here buying Louboutins and Louis Vuitton, like then I'm a weak ass bitch. Like, what kind of partner is that? And I love the fact that like when I see something, it doesn't hurt his pride for me to say something and for me to do something, because I am in the position that he's not. And while he takes care of him as a man, like I ain't saying like he just living off me, you know what I'm, but like he allows me that space when in my femininity, which means taking care of in a way that you can't take care of yourself. And that makes it so good.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So we got a wedding plan, or
We just
to some planning a wedding. Came from a wedding.
Well, before we get into what is, I've asked a lot of friends, we're planning a wedding. Well, our daughter planning her wedding, but we're having what is the one part of you that you are most looking to?
My dress, that's it.
It's all about the dress? You already picked it out?
The entrance, that's those.
After or the first
first
look.
time that
Okay.
yeah, that you like everything goes wrong. I'm motherfucker. Like, those are my two But it's really, for me, it's the dress, and those are my two things. I have styles. My good girl, she's a impersonator, one of the number one impersonators in the world. She's made a lot of the I've been wearing. She made the in my engagement photo. That was actually made by a woman.
That's dope.
Okay.
And so and that was actually her first look. She was so like, and I was like, girl, it's everything. But her work to collaborate on legitimately custom weddings. So I'm really happy about it.
Don't let our
Yeah, don't. For everybody that's going to be attending this wedding, do not fuck that moment up. This dress was customized and well thought out and shit.
Look here.
Look, now I'm like, oh gosh, she gonna hear this episode and be like,
We're going to save this episode. Nah.
yeah.
It's funny because also the brother that's going to be editing this.
Oh, that's right.
Shout out to our Vanilla Citizen, R&R. He's actually getting married coming up soon also. So I guess it's
wedding season.
It's wedding season.
It is.
I guess, but it's like so many people that I know or whatever. So we actually just came from some of our
A Vegas wedding.
performer friends and co-star Jake and Dylan just went to their wedding. That shit was lit.
That was fun. It was really interesting to be like industry people there and family there, and so it was a black gay porn wedding. But it was good. It was so great. People was trying to hit on you.
They wasn't hitting on me there.
Through the groom.
Yo, that was wild.
Yeah, how you gonna ask the groom about a guest? Talk about I see one of your guests what he got in his pants. I'm like, so
wow.
In
They need
in
to
good
buy, they gonna buy the dildo.
in good sex worker fashion. Dylan did put out
Came through like, yo,
You could
should
buy
go
his toy.
Toy and shit.
Probably like, don't go up to their table.
I do need to buy that. Nick told me it was too fun because after we said there was a long conversation about these videos, but Nick was like, you know, he got a toy. I was like, what? Because I saw yours because Tahoe like did the, but like I had no idea, so I was like, what? She was like, yeah, you can have it whenever you want. This is so awkward, but not really. But yeah, she's like, yeah, you can have them whenever you want to. I was like, oh, say less. It's going to be purchased.
I love it. Hey,
yeah.
we gotta get the wedding edition.
Oh, it can come with a special cock ring on it and shit.
Right.
With like a diamond joint, and I do, you know.
Okay.
That's fly.
Y'all too much.
Shout out to Lust Star.
That's all we trying to do. All we trying to do is love each other, have good sex,
And creation.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's it. So leave us alone.
There you go. I thought that was the stamp right there.
That was it. That was the one.
But let's and then this will be the bonus. Hope, where can the people find you?
So you can find me everywhere at Hope Giselle. Literally every handle is my name spelled the way that it sounds. Well, no, that's a lie because people be spelling with a J. So it's Hope, Hope, Giselle, Giselle. The only thing that's different is TikTok is Hope Giselle 1, but everything else is literally Hope Giselle. Or if you Google me, all of that stuff will come up, as well as some dope resources. So if you heard some things that you're not sure about and you want them explained, it's very likely that they'll be explained in my website or on my social channels.
And can you tell us the name of your merch? What should we all be wearing?
Yeah. So actually, one of my best sellers is the Femme Queen Realness shirt, but the merch is called Functional Misfit. So it's functionalmisfit.com, and I have like right now it's just a bunch of like different tees with inspirational messaging. My favorite t-shirt is the insert your inspirational shit here shirt.
I love that.
It was a gag. My friend who did the graphic for me, like I told him, I was like, oh, I'm gonna put something there, just like do a filler for me, and he literally put insert your inspirational shit here, and I was like,
I like that.
I like that. We're going to go with that. And it actually is another really good seller. And the rest of them are just like hopeful merch or like really deep quotes or something like that. But I wanted to keep it black. I wanted to keep it nice and black. So you'll notice like the insert your inspirational shit here is actually like my book cover, but it's like the outline of my book cover. And so it's real Afrocentric and all that stuff. And it was really funny because this woman who shall remain nameless inboxed me and was just like, I wouldn't have bought this shirt if I would have known that it was on the front.
You're like, cha-ching, bitch, get out of here.
Look here, but
Thank
you bought
for your
it,
purchase.
and I got I collected my coins, sis. But I'm really happy with it, and I'm gonna do some expansion for the summer, so I'm really excited.
That's what's up.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank y'all for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Hey, y'all already know where to find the rest of our shit at. Do it.
Royal Fetish.
My life's like a movie, paparazzi picture. If it's to get richer, then I'll probably